I discovered I'm an angel. I didn't come with any wings today. I don't know why. I discovered I'm a slave. I discovered I'm half human. I discovered I'm a lab rat. And I also discovered in Canada, I have 3 legs. I want to explain all of that to you. Let me start with the second one here. An angel. What is my first name?
Gabriel.
Gabriel. I didn't come with my wings. Somebody made me the angel because they decided to make the heaven earth. My labor is used to create somebody's heaven. Will I be a spectator or will I be a fighter? My surname is Allahdua. Allah is a Muslim name for God. Now, let me give you a little history. A while ago, I told you I am from St. Lucia. St. Lucia is in the Caribbean, and there are many, many, many islands. You've been to one of them, Trinidad. There's Cuba, Jamaica, Barbados, a lot. Some of them are French, some of them are English, some of them are Spanish, some of them are Spanish, English, French. Okay? My island, St. Lucia, was 7 times colonized by France, 7 times colonized by England. 1 time French, 1 time English, 1 time French, 1 time, 7 times. We're back and forth. So 14 times. Those islands in the Caribbean, when the colonizers came in, remember I said English, French, Dutch, Spanish. Huh? Where are those languages from? Europe. When those colonizers came there, they literally destroyed the indigenous people, the native people. And then the attention changed to agriculture. When they came there, they saw the indigenous people had jewelry and so on, so the attention was on precious stones. So they later changed to agriculture when they realized that they were not getting all the precious stones that they wanted. One of the first crops that they cultivated was tobacco. But tobacco wasn't very profitable. It couldn't compete with Virginian tobacco in terms of quality, in terms of price. So tobacco wasn't profitable. They changed to sugarcane. By that time, they needed, sugarcane is a more labor-intensive crop, so they went to Africa to bring in Africans to work as free labor. And we know that story, right? In 1838, the slaves became free. So the plantation owners had a problem. They had a because it is not just slavery, you know. It is barbaric slavery. If you read about it, you'll understand the brutality. So at emancipation, the then freed slaves had an option, whether to continue working on the plantation or whether to go on their own. Because slavery was so barbaric, right? Most of them decided to go on their own. So the plantation owners had a problem. Sorry? Very little workers or no workers. So they then went to Asia to bring in indentured workers. And that is why in my own country, I told you a while ago I have 3 legs. 1 leg of mine, I carry 1 leg from my mother's side, the African side, the slave side, and the other leg I'm carrying is my father's side. Allah is from Muslim name for God is Muslim. So my father is from Asia. In my country, the Indians form a very small population, part of the population, maybe 2%, but they've mixed so much, like me, I'm half Indian, half indigenous. So those who mix, well, maybe 5% of the population. But in Trinidad, where he was, roughly 50% is of Asian descent, 50% of the population is African descent. So look at me. I told you I have 3 legs. I carry 1 leg of my mother, slave. Another leg from my father's side, indentured labor. And now I am in Canada, taking part in another form of exploitative labor. So how many legs do I have? 3 legs. How many of you have 3 legs? So I discovered these things in Canada. So I need to prove to you those other things, right? I want to tell you, I like to use props, right? I want to tell you, before I came to Canada, my father was arrested for stealing a cow. A cow. Now, what is a cow? A cow is not just an animal with 4 legs. In my country, because of poverty, a cow, we all know a cow feeds a lot of grass, right? But they grow so fast. Well, gradually, their growth rate is not as fast as a pig, but they grow at a fairly steady rate, right? And in quick time, like a year or so, you can double, triple, quadruple your returns, right? A cow in our country is an emergency fund. To have an animal that's growing in a year or so, you can double, triple. If there's an emergency, you can sell it and bail yourself out, right? For somebody to steal your credit card, your whatever, your bank account, how would you feel? That's how the person feels. So my father was arrested for stealing a cow. My father said, he was taken to court. My father said he never ever stole a cow. So this will explain, you never had a cow. How would a cow end up on your property? How you end up with a cow? He said one day he was walking home and he saw a really nice rope. I hope that looks like a nice rope. He said he saw a nice rope, but he decided to drag the rope home, drag it home, drag it home, drag it home. And when he got home, when he arrived home, he decided to sit down and check the other end of the rope. Can I check the other end of the rope? Let me go check the other end. He said he saw something looking like that. Does that look like a cow in Canada? That's the trouble with migrant workers, you know. I went to buy a cow in Canada. They give me a cow without a leg. They give me a cow without a tail and so on. But I want to tell you, did you come to listen about my father, or you came to hear about the real issues that migrant workers face? And if you're here to listen about the real issues that migrant workers face, I want you to take off your shoes and put yourself, walk in the shoes of a migrant worker, and tell me whether these conditions are fair, just conditions in a land. What kind of land does Canada say? I like to spot right? In my home country, red and white means land. On the world stage, what does Canada say? We are champion for human rights. Canada goes to China and tells China, it will be a human rights record. Canada goes to the UN and tells the UN, the same rights and privileges my citizens enjoy, I'll extend them to refugees. Canada says the world champion for human rights, right? But let us go, let us go. I like to talk like that. My father saw a nice rope. But me, myself, did I get a nice rope? I don't know. Did I get a long rope? I don't know. You tell me. I want to tell you, had I come to Canada freely, willingly, I would be a tourist, I would be a visitor. But listen, these are the three things that pushed me to come to Canada. There was no gun, but tell me, GI, global inequality. Don't we have enough resources for everybody's needs? There's enough for everybody. You see the little bit of air that I'm breathing? I'm 50 years. For 50 years, I never had to worry about some air. And if I have another 50 years, I don't have to worry because there's enough air for you, for me. And even though I take all the air in the room, there's still enough for everybody. There's sufficient resources for everybody. But because of global inequality, I was forced to come to Canada. I would like to encourage you to watch that documentary, Life, L-I-F-E, and Debt, D-E-B-T. And that was an eye-opener for me. I experienced it, but to see it in a form of a documentary, it was really an eye-opener, Life and Debt. Now, the second thing that pushed me to come to Canada is WTO. What is that? World Trade Organization. And let me see if I can tell you that story in a very short way. England, I told you my country went back and forth between France and England, right? England was our final, or is our final colonizer, England. In the 1950s to 1960s, we moved from sugarcane to bananas. With sugarcane, imagine having a crop. Sugarcane, you can only harvest sugarcane once for the year. So your income, how many incomes do you have? One income for the year. That's a kind of management. You have to be really good to manage that income. So we shifted from sugarcane to bananas. With bananas, it roughly to take 9 months or so for it to start producing. The moment bananas you start harvesting, you can harvest at least twice for the month. So your cash flow is different to compare. Okay, so banana was our main crop. Because we were colonized by England, we used to sell most of our bananas in England. So we sell into Europe. What did America say? Those small boys have preference, because the relationship between England and our country was like our mother country. So we had preference, right? America said, those guys, small guys have preference. It should be fair trade, an open market. So this is just one of many institutions that you'll see in Life and Death, World Bank, and so that create that wide divide. So literally, through the WTO, we were elbowed out of the market. We cannot compete as a giant. We know all the bananas we see in Canada. What are the companies like? I even forgetting the name. Dole, blah, blah, blah. Can we compete with giants, right? And the other thing I want to tell you, my country is very mountainous. And because it's not flat, we cannot use a lot of mechanization. A lot of our work is manual. And manual labor is more expensive than mechanization, right? So we were literally elbowed because of that institution. Another thing that forced me to come to Canada is ED. And from Bangladesh, from environmental destruction. Environmental destruction. In my country, the 1st of June to the 30th of this month, for 6 months of the year. Listen to that. June, too soon. July, standby. August is a month. September, a month to remember. October is October. November is November. For 6 months, we go through that. And in my home country, I was self-employed doing 5 different things. I felt so confident that my income was diversified. If where is affected, I could still live a decent life. But because of a hurricane, the carpet was swept underneath me, and I was forced to come to Canada because of a hurricane. I want to tell you, right now, what is called COP27. What a country is called with global warming and climate change. What a country. What a one pay the price. I was forced to come to Canada because of a hurricane. What did I get when I arrived in Canada? I want to tell you a couple of things. I like this talk, right? The program that brought me to Canada is like a tree. Does that agree with you? The program that brought me to Canada is like a tree with a telephone number. Have you seen that telephone number before? And today we're going through that telephone number. That program that brought me to Canada this year is 56 years, 1966. The program that brought me to Canada is like this tree there with 3 simple parts. Stem, the branch, and the leaf. I'm in Canada because of the stem of that tree. What is the stem? I am here to do jobs Canadians do not want to do. What are the jobs Canadians do not want to do? Even during the pandemic answered that so clearly. During the pandemic, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. I thought with unemployment so high in Canada and everywhere else, right? But in Canada, employment was maybe at its highest, I would assume. So many people lost their jobs. I thought Canadians would go to the farm during crisis, a pandemic. They were going to produce their food. Even during the period of crisis, food is so important, becomes extra important. Canadians still do not want to do that. Why? Why is that? So many reasons. But at the end of the day, if the conditions were right, it would attract people. From 1966 up to now, Canadians don't want to do it. The conditions are not right. What about the jobs? They are the D jobs, the dirty jobs, the difficult jobs, the dangerous jobs. Every year, workers are dying. Every year. This year, at least 9 workers have died. What does that tell you about the conditions? And what kind of work are we doing in Canada? Non-unionized work. For a minute, I want you to think, can you imagine the conditions associated with non-unionized work? And if you're working, have you thanked your union for 8 hours a day and weekends off? And with migrant workers, non-unionized work, what does that tell you? So we are here to do non-unionized work. We are here to do dirty jobs. That's the step. What are the branches? In Canada, we cannot apply for status. In Canada, we cannot apply for status. Now, what is status in Canada? If I have status, I have rights. If I don't have status, I don't have certain rights. Now, let me see if I can explain that. The first part of that tree, the leaf, we are tied to our employer by way of a tied work permit. The work permit I have, it ties me to my employer. It's also called a closed work permit, not an open work permit, right? If I have status, I automatically have an open work permit. I can refuse unsafe work. So Canada, look at it. We're here to do those dirty work. We cannot apply for status, and we are tied to our employer. Let me go over that again. We are tied to our employer to do the dirty work. And at the same time, we don't have status. Now, what is status? In Canada, not having status means you're denied basic human rights. Not having status means you're denied basic labor standards. I'll try to explain that a little further. But let me just repeat that, summarize it. I'm tied to my employer to do the dirty work, and at the same time, being denied basic human rights, being denied basic labor standards. I want to tell you, from the very foundation of Canada, Canada continues to use 2 things, unjust labor laws and unjust immigration laws to work together. What does that mean? If I have status, it takes us 2 headaches, In my country, when we are sick, we take Panadol, painkillers, Advil, Tylenol. This is our painkiller. This is our Tylenol. This is our Advil. What is status? If I have status, I'm not considered It takes care of my immigration vulnerability. If I have status, I have an open work. I can refuse on Facebook. I can choose my employer. It takes care of my labor vulnerability. Status is a two-edged sword, both immigration and labor vulnerability. Let me go further. Because of time, I don't know how much I can get it, but I'm still at my telephone. Is the phone ringing? 20. I want to tell you, you can see very clearly that this is not a just program, right? These are the 20, I call it the 20 injustices that migrant workers face. And because of time, I kind of go through all of them, but let me see. I'll start at number one. Sorry? You have time, That's the first time I'm here in Canada. We have time. Really? Always. I didn't know that. I did come before once because I know I didn't have time, right? Okay. These are the 20 dark sides of Canada, the 20 injustices. One, these are the 20, and tell me whether they represent fair conditions, decent conditions, right? To be tied to your employer, is that free labor or unfree labor? Is that free labor? Or in my country, if I'm tied to my employer with a contract or my loyalty or whatever, right? But to be tied to him through a tied with family, what does that say, right? So as I said a while ago, if I have status, I have an open work permit. I can choose my birth. By being tied, by being tied to my employer, where's the pressure? Where's the burden? On my employer or on me? By being tied to my employer, does my employer have any desire to make things better for me? Let me compare it to this. If I have an open work permit, my employer knows that any employer, I can work if anybody is willing to hire me. So if he likes my work, what would the employer do? They'll create a condition to attract their kids. But where's the burden if I'm tied to that person? There's no pressure on the employer. The pressure is always, always on the worker. In my home country, I never, ever use energy drink. Being on the farm program, energy drink was part of my diet. Because every day we have to go above and beyond. And if you do some more reading about it, you'll see some people, they call that program permanently temporary. From 1966, we are temporary. From 1966. Up to now, Canadians do not want to do it. So they bring us from 1960. Is that temporary? So number two, with no right to apply for status. And as I said, what is status? It's a two-edged sword, right? It's our painkiller status. So you cannot apply for status. What does that mean? You are denied. It brings it back to that. You cannot apply for status. It means that you're not being treated as a human being. That's because you're denied basic human, denied. And I'll show it to you in a short while. Number three, so by having status, if I have status, it takes care of that. Number three, what's number three? Look at the word I underlined there. Controls our housing. Let me talk a little about that. The pandemic highlighted that. The way migrant workers live, we live in congregated housing. And what is COVID like? It spreads like wildfire. And with COVID, not only can you get sick, but you can also die. And during the pandemic, it is said that migrant farm workers, they were 4 times more likely to catch COVID than the general public. So that's how vulnerable we were. Sorry. I want to tell you also a few things about our housing. One, overcrowded. Number two, where do migrant workers live? You don't see us. We live on the farm. We have property. We are invisible. We live on the farm. We have the farmer's property. When you go to the farm, what do you see at the entrance? Private property. Private property. So if you live on private property, what does that make you? A tourist? A visitor? Does that make you a human being? Overcrowded, private property, invisible. Number three, a lot of the times the houses are not regulated. A lot of the time they're below standard. And if you watch that documentary, Migrant Dreams, you can see a little clip of the housing, Migrant Dreams. Is it on TVO? TVO, yeah. But there's a time frame. I don't know if it is this month. You can still watch it on TVO, but there's some time frame too, right? It shows you a little about our housing conditions. And number four, our contracts are not enforceable. You remember I told you that it's impossible to get justice? Our contracts are not enforceable. Number five, the threat of deportation keeps us quiet. The threat of deportation keeps us quiet. Remember, because we don't have status, Because we don't have status, what happens? We are temporary, right? And hear that. Our employer controls the travel agency. Our employer controls the travel agency that's booking our flight in and out of Canada. What does that tell you? The travel agency that's booking, bringing our flight in and out, who's the owner? Our employer. The threat of deportation keeps us quiet. Why am I here today? Because you don't hear this story. Why am I here today? You don't hear this story. That's one reason. You don't hear this story, right? So if I had started, wouldn't it take care of my vulnerability, that deportation threat of deportation? Wouldn't take? So that's why our demand is started. Let me go to number 6. That one, I don't even know what's the answer to it. You have to be in my shoes to know it. Number 6, we face harassment and racism because as you know, without status, you're denied basic human rights, denied basic. So that is a given. But about racism, the US, south of the border, the US is very loud about it, clear and bold about it. But in Canada, it's what? Which one do you rather? To live with a devil that you don't, or to live with an angel that you don't know? Think about that. Huh? And number 7, we are often denied. That's our name, you know. A migrant worker, what's our name? Denied. We are often denied minimum. What are we denied? You know what minimum? You know what the minimum? The minimum. That's what we're doing. You know what minimum? We are often denied minimum wage. You know what minimum? I want everything could emphasize that or overemphasize that minimum. And to make it work, and I'll try to show you that in a while. From the minimum wage, we have lots and lots of different types. And I'll prove to you a few things in a short while. So again, if I have started, it will help me to refuse this. And we are often, not often, because of what's it called? Labor laws, we are denied minimum wage. For agricultural workers, we are denied, not minimum wage, sorry, overtime pay. We do not get overtime pay. So if I had started, I would, the status comes with a package of them. Not having status, it denies us. Number 8, I told you we had to do those dangerous jobs, right? The D job, you remember? And most of the time, and again in Migrant Dream, the document you see is highlighted, we have very little or no protection. Very little or no protection. Why do the workers die? Every year workers are dying. Why? Very little or no protection. And look at that, when we get injured, if workers are dying, can you imagine how many more are getting injured? And when we get injured, it's so easy to send us back home. Disposable labor. Remember the travel agency is controlled by employers. When you get injured, it's so easy to send you back home and get somebody to replace you. Medical repatriation, we call that. And again, that is why wealth is important. That's why I'm happy to be in wealth. You know why? Wealth around the world, wealth is not for agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture is there, WSIB had an office there, everybody's here, right? But the current system in Canada, the current agricultural system, it is legal to exploit the soil. It is legal to exploit the environment. It's legal to exploit migrant workers. It's legal. Where should I fight? In the garden or come to the heart of it? That's why wealth is important. Number 10, not one inquest into the death of any migrant worker in the whole of Canada. Every time I go to a workplace, you know, there's a board in the lunchroom or wherever, there's a board. What's it called? Workplace health and safety, occupational health, whatever it's called, right? But usually there's a green book. I call it a Bible. It's so thick as a green book. We follow the guidelines, policies, whatever, right? A lot of those guidelines and policies is as a result of inquest into work-related death. Not one inquest when it comes to migrant workers. Number 11. Why is that so? Why is that so? The labor laws. That is natural laws. The labor laws, they exclude us. Why is that so? The few rights that we have, they are not being enforced. The few that we have, they are not being enforced. Before there's a visit on the farm, they'll call them, try a door, and everything is okay. Everything is okay. The moment they send it back, what is it? Back to the usual. Everything back to normal, right? Sorry. Number 13. We pay into EI, but we can't access it. Do you know what is EI? I like to pick on people. Sorry for that. Do you know what is EI? What is that? Let's assume there's somebody, an international student, and they don't know. What would you say?
apply for and get it, you need your job or you wait and your career for like the various reasons, but
okay. Are you from Bangladesh?
yeah.
Do you know what is EI? Did you get? Have you ever received it? Can I get some if you ever get? Okay, we pay into EI as you said. If you're working, you pay into EI, employment insurance, like you're insuring your employment. It is also called, let me see, employment insurance. There's another employment. There's another little name, but anyway, you contribute into it while you're working, and if for some reason you're not working, you get some out of work you can get some funds, right? We contribute into it and we cannot access. Why? Because we are temporary. To access it, they say you have to be in Canada. You're available for blah, 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 all kind of rules. They keep on changing the goalpost, so you can never score a goal with this one. All those things are against us, right? So number 14 of all those 20 injustices that I'll tell you, number 14 is the worst, regardless of where migrant workers go, to be physically separated from the people that you love is the worst injustice. So what's the point of life? To make money or to spend time and money with the people that you love? What's the point of life, right? To be physically separated from the people that you love is the worst injustice. Your best days in Canada, Family Day, Mother's Day. What is coming? Thanksgiving Day, Christmas. These are our worst days in Canada. Again, I ask a question. Does that make us a human being? I want to, number 15. Why is that so? The Canadian immigration policy. Why is that so? Is that a natural law or man-made law? The Canadian immigration policy. They have one set of rules for permanent residents and another set of rules for temporary workers. A human being is not a human being in Canada. And what is I like the politicians, they like to say nice things from coast to coast to coast. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, right? But a worker is a worker. No, not in Canada. Not in Canada. Number 16. Look at it. Would you believe it? We have to pay to work in Canada. The same jobs Canadians do, we have to pay to do it. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Canadians don't know what to do with it. You have to pay to it. And as I said, there are lots and lots of deductions. We get minimum wage, not a living wage. We get minimum wage. And after that, deductions. Okay? And number 17. It is illegal for migrant farm workers to unionize. Remember I told you we are doing non-unionized work, right? It is illegal. What became legal fairly recently in Canada? Maybe 3 years or so?
What's cannabis?
Cannabis, yeah. Do you have any?
No.
Why? It's illegal. Why you don't have? Why you don't have?
I'm against it.
But okay.
No, I mean I had a son who was drug dependent, so I have a personal experience.
I understand.
Drugs
Okay.
are just not.
Okay. So we'll not respect that. Eh? But said it's illegal and she don't have it. And mine is illegal and I need it. It's illegal to do want it, right? But mine is illegal and I need it. Can you imagine the working conditions associated with non-unionized work? And in Canada, why would they make it illegal? Anyway, number 18. What's the problem? Why is that so? There's so much power in the hands of our employer. High power imbalance. Look at it. They've taken away our power. We have no power, and there's so much. One example, as I said, our employer, they control the travel agency already. That's just one. And where's my power? I am tied to that person. The high power imbalance. Number 19, up to now, what did I tell you? On the world stage, what did I tell you? Canada is a champion. People look up to Canada, right? Canada is just not a country. Canada is a pace setter, a trendsetter. People look up to Canada. But look at it, up to now, Canada have not, they've not, what's the right word? They've not signed it, they've not ratified it, they've not implemented it. The UN Convention on the Rights of Migrant Workers on it. Up now, what does that say? A champion for human rights. So does Canada have, is really and truly the champion for human rights, right? Number 20, and I stop at number 20, because if I have to count injustices, the room is too small. The grassroots organization that I'm with, we are either not invited or not consulted when it comes to issues, because why? The status quo as it is there, it benefits Very few. And Canada, that's why I'm happy to be in Guelph, OFA, Ontario Federation of Agriculture, Canadian Federation of Agriculture, they lobby the government to maintain the status quo, which benefits a very few at the expense of a lot. Okay, so let me bring another thing to your attention. I like to use props. I went across Canada and I tried to buy the nicest bag in Canada. Doesn't look like the nicest bag in Canada? That's how it's presented to you, very nice, everything nice and rosy. But how it's presented to you? As buy local. Don't you want to buy local when you go to the supermarket? Everybody wants. Let me see, did I shop for you this morning? I went to buy some local stuff. When we go and buy, we want it to be fresh. And the fresher it is, the better it is, right? More nutritious, better health, and so on. But today, I want to open that bar with you. When you go and buy local, I want to tell you, when you buy local, what is Canada saying? Canada is saying, the people who produce our food, they must be brown, black people of color. Race is one. Canada is saying, send me those people of color, and especially if they struggle with English. English is a second language, or they're illiterate. So language, color. And the third thing is, if they're ignorant about human rights issues and labor issues. What do people Canada want? Race. What do people want? Language. What do people Canada want? Ignorance. Isn't it a recipe for exploitation already? And already, what did I tell you? Already we are tied to our employer. We are tied to our employer already. We don't have status. We already tied to employer. Now, what is Canada saying? Oh, send me those people. I will welcome them. Come. I have a place for you. I have a place for you. Welcome them in a climate of fear. And one of them, I told you, is, for example, the threat of deportation. The threat of deportation, that is just one. And Canada is welcoming us in a climate of fear. Why? We are forced, I am forced to be submissive and compliant. I am forced to be submissive and compliant for so many reasons, but just one of them is the threat of deportation. And where is that happening? In a country with a culture of, what is Canada known as? A country with a culture of silence. Silence. Nobody says nothing about it. And I'll tell you about 5 years. Some people, they'll deny it. When you tell them that, they'll say, oh, no, it's the Western in America. They'll derail it, all kind of deals, right? Mm-hmm. Is that an illegal program? It has a full blessing of government. Full blessing of government. So, let me bring another thing to your attention now. Is that an accident? I like to use props. I hope you can see. Can you see from it? Can you see from it? Okay. Is that an accident or is that by design? Another one, that is enshrined in the Canadian law. Another name for migrant worker is denied. We are denied the right to vote. The same politician, PPP, my poverty, remember I told you I get minimum wage and lots of deductions, right? My poverty in Canada is big. My poverty, P, is because of the unjust policies, P, of the politicians, P. The same people who create those unjust laws, I cannot vote, I cannot touch it, they're untouchable. Denied the right. We are denied the right to participate in culture and community. Does that make me a human being? Denied the right to participate in family life. Denied the right to be protected by ordinary labor. Denied the right to access adequate comprehensive health. Does that make us a human being in Canada? Does that make us a human being? Is that an accident? Or is that by design? I want to tell you, have I shown you too many props? From the seed all the way to your plate. What are people? P. What are people planting your food? What are people picking your food? What are people processing? What are people packaging? When you go to the restaurant, what are people preparing your meals? What are people distributing your food? It's all people of color. All people, and that's what the pandemic highlighted. What are people really in the front line? What are people in the front line? It's all people that are minimum wage, long hours, blah, 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 right? I want to tell you today, right now, there are no more migrant workers in Canada. That's strange, right? During the pandemic, the borders were closed. The borders were open only to citizens and permanent residents. But Canada realized during the pandemic, they cannot survive without migrant workers. So they said, we'll open the door, but we do not want migrant workers. We want essential workers. They are not no more migrant workers. We are essential workers. You see the nice word the politicians get? Essential workers. That's a promotion. You ever get that promotion? But this is a nice term. Where is the treatment? Where is the treatment? What has changed? For example, in Toronto, in Ontario, frontline workers, who are considered frontline workers? The health workers, right? They got hazard pay and so on, right? You see the difference. You see how they categorize them, right? Conveniently, right? Frontline workers, not essential workers. But in closing, I want to tell you a couple of things here. I have to prove to you a couple of things. Okay, I hope you can see this diagram here, this box. Can everybody see the box? MW, migrant workers. I call it political football. Migrant workers. Employers, unions, citizens, government. What do the employers want? Profit, profit, profit. How does the government ensure that the employees get profit, profit, profit? The government makes sure employees get profit, profit by bringing migrant workers. Who are migrant workers? They are denied. Who are migrant workers? They get minimum wage. Who are migrant workers? Non-unionized work. You understand? Isn't that the formula for profit? So the government keeps those people happy. The union. What does the union want? And we know recently in Ontario we have a strike, right? What does the union want? The unions want when there's a strike, and what is the purpose of it? For better condition. They want when there's a strike that the employees cannot go into a pool of cheap labor, easy to break the strike, right? How does the government keep the unions happy? By bringing migrant workers. Who are migrant workers? Illegal to unionize, so to non-unionized. So isn't the government keeping those people happy? So would the unions quarrel with the government? No. The citizens. What does the citizens want? What do they want? Racial purity. Keep those guys off the street. In Leamington, where I was, there was anti-loitering bylaw. A bylaw. They said that so many migrant workers on the street, we cannot enjoy our town. The same people that are keeping the community going and putting food on the table, they don't want to stay. So what do the citizens want? Racial purity. How does the government keep them happy? By where do the migrant workers live? Invisible, on the farms, private property. Even the government, how do they keep themselves happy? We contribute into EI, for example. If we contribute into EI, we cannot access it. They said, somebody told me, I've never read about EI, I wanted to read about it. They said the surplus in EI was so much, billions, the government used it to pay off their debt. From 1966, we contributed into EI every week or every fortnight, whatever the fixed cycle is, right? From 1966, can you imagine, do you have a calculator? Can you imagine, make a calculator for me, how much money we contribute to something we cannot access? So that is why I have this book here. And I have a grandchild, he buys a cow. I'm happy, that's what I hope you can do, bite the system, change the system. Everybody is milking us. Everybody, even the government, a legal part, even the government is milking us. Now, some of my talks are not big, but I hope that they are simple, right? My children are always sick. Why are they always sick? Because they don't eat properly. Why they don't eat properly? Because I get minimum wage and not a living wage. Remember minimum what I told you, right? Because why do I get minimum wage? Because the system, because of unjust policies, right? I cannot get overtime, cannot deny. Because the system is unjust, the cost of living is high, and I have little money left, and I'm just trapped in a cycle. My children are illiterate. Let me give an example. I have 2 children. From the time I came in Canada in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 4 years on the farm program. During that period of time on the program, my children's academic performance, they went down. At the end of the day, there's an exam that we do in the Caribbean. At the end of high school, you write an exam. On average, the average person writes 6, 7, 8 subjects. My daughter wrote maybe 5, but not the average, 6, 7, 8. And she only passed 1. She only passed 1. Who would employ somebody with just 1 subject? Now, does that help me to contribute better to my society, or is it not keeping us in another cycle, another cycle, another cycle? So getting minimum wage, can I ever cure that problem of illiteracy problem? Can I solve it? You understand? We're trapped in a cycle. The social problem, for example, in the community where my children were born, it's one of the poorest in my country, And being away from my children, does that help me to get us out of the cycle, or we kept further and further? My son, he, on the other hand, compared to my daughter, he wrote maybe 7 or 8. He wrote the average number, subject 8, I can't remember, and he passed all of them. Great, I was feeling better. But that didn't last long. He started college and it didn't last 1 semester he quit. Does that help for better society, or is that being on the program keeps us in a vicious cycle? I want to tell you, I have a lot of problems, I told you, right? I want to tell you, that's an easy thought, right? They said generally 3/4 of the world is water. Huh? Is that true? Mm-hmm. I've heard of, okay. And they said, it is said, Canada, where's Canada? They said Canada controls maybe 50 to 75% of the world's supply of fresh water. Have you heard of that? Okay. How many communities in Canada are without access to clean fresh water? How many communities are under boil water advisory? Is it a question of not having enough water, or is it a question of how the resources are used or used or used, right? Okay, that's one. Number 2, I want to tell you, some people see this well, you see the clothes I have, you see the food I have, you see the shelter I have. All the things that we have and we need, it comes from here. Some people want, when the children come to take over, the next generation comes, then they want it to be a better place. And the people are frustrated, that's what they want, right? It's to be a better place, right? Isn't that what we want? But other people, what did they say? Other people, what did they say? Oh, I can get food, I can get clothes, I want all of it. I want all of it. Grab it and exploit it. Everywhere those people landed, I have another prof. Everywhere those people landed, what did we say? Colonialism. What did we say? Barbaric slavery. What did we say? Genocide. And in Canada, RS. What is RS? Residential school. Do you know about it? Recently, on the 19th of September, what it was called? On the 19th of September, what was the day? Well, I don't even know. It was Truth and Reconciliation. Beautiful. Can I put you on the spot? How many calls to action are there? It's a final exam. If you attend, everybody passes with order. There are 94 calls to action. What is it? They're calling on you. They're calling on you. They're calling on me to do 94 things to make right those injustices. 94. That's the attitude of those people. 94. If I step on your toe, I can say sorry and genuine sorry. But if I have to do 94 things, what does that say? The depth of injustice, right? So, and where does that happen? The attitude of these people. CRW. I came in a vehicle, it's a CRV. Where did I get that vehicle from? What is CRW? Do you know what that means? The Chinese railroad workers. I tell you, from the very foundation of Canada. Where is the flag? The very foundation of Canada. The very foundation of Canada. Canada have been using unjust immigration and unjust labor law. If you know about the Chinese railroad workers, it is estimated over 17,000 came. So it is estimated 4,000 of them died. Roughly 1 out of 4, 1 worker died. That tells you about the dirty work that they were doing. Number 2, at the end of the project, what did happen? They kicked them out. They want to kill Chinese head tax, blah, 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 blah. Right? The attitude of those people. And what am I telling you there? Canada, all a year. Tell me 1 year, and I'll tell you Canada, a program Canada has. Canada consistently have a program to dehumanize and exploit it. Consistently. Just tell me a year, and I'll tell you a program Canada. The 60 school. THC, what is THC? Is it the drug that's legal now? The home children, I didn't know about it. It is said over 100,000 children were taken from orphanages and blah, 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 and brought to Canada. When you look around you, when you look around you, a lot of the wealth that you see is off the backs of free, cheap, disposable labor. Can you imagine having children, don't have a parents, don't have people to look? Can you imagine the amount of exploitation that these people go for? And what am I telling you about today? Seasonal agricultural workers program. The first letter S, seasonal. We're temporary from 1966 still temporary, right? Seasonal. But as I said, you can see who is a migrant worker, deny. We are tired and so on. So Canada consistently have programs that says that dehumanize and exploit people. I want to tell you, I like to use props. I want to tell you, I was making a sandwich while we were talking, right? I want to tell you, when I came to Canada, in my home country, on 2 occasions, I felt the love. In my country, red and white means love. Anytime you see somebody dressed in red and white in my country, know that love is in the air. So at your next class, I'll come and see if anybody is dressed in red and white. I know who have love, who don't have love. In my home country, red and white means love. On the 2 occasions, I felt the love of Canada in my home country. In my home country, red also means danger. In my home country, in school, you know what they taught me? That the food that we eat, it is synthesized in the leaves of green plants, right? Did they teach you that? Food is synthesis takes place in the leaves of green plants. But when I see that red leaf, red is danger. It reminds me of the dangerous conditions that migrant workers face in the production of food. Every time I see that red leaf, it reminds me of the danger. Being a migrant farm worker, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. In my home country, what are the conditions that forced me to come to Canada? Difficult, unemployment, hurricane, blah, blah, blah. Forced me to come to. When I got to Canada, what did I get? 20 injustices waiting for me and denied. So I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. I don't know on which farm I got that in Canada. We all know an egg is very fragile. If I drop it, it will break. And if the egg breaks, the life inside of it will die. But we also know that if that egg breaks through a force from the inside, an inside force, what comes out of it? Life comes out of it. I want to ask you today, what will you do? I want to tell you, being a migrant worker, only our hands are needed in Canada to do the dirty work. I want to tell you, and I want you to take a few minutes in quiet conversation with yourself to look in your hand. I want to tell you there's power in your hand as a consumer. There's power in your hands as a voter. There's power in your hands as a student. Whatever talent that you have, everything that you need is inside of you. There's power in your hands. I want you to discover. That's the best conversation you can ever have with you. There's power in your hands. And I'm hoping that this course, this session will help you to discover the power that you have. And I would like to encourage you to use that power. To either, it's your decision, to either create those things, use your power to create those things that will push that egg and break that egg, or create a condition that will cause that egg to break from the inside and create a fair and just society. On the world stage, Canada portrays itself to be the most loving, the most champion for human rights. On the world stage, Canada is diverse, the most diverse and inclusive. Is that true? No. You have the power in your hands to create that kind of society. So I'll leave it at this point and say thank you and discover the power in you. Thank you.